Good evening, Keewatin-Patricia District School Board families. My name is Shonda Norlock, and I'm a secondary principal for the KPDSB. On April 16th, we released a survey for parents and guardians of our families to gather information about how distance learning has been for your child or children, and to learn what we can do to support our students' learning going forward. When we looked at the results of the survey, we learned that parents and guardians wanted to better understand the tools that their children were using for distance learning. To that end, we have scheduled 2 sessions for parents and guardians. Tonight, we will focus on the features of Google Classroom, and next day, learning at kpdsb.ca. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's presenters. Michelle Parrish is a special assignment teacher for KPDSB, and Lindy Henderson is an intermediate teacher at Beaver Bay Elementary School. Jason McDonald, KPDSB Learning Technologies Administrator, will also be monitoring and posing the questions you send us. Michelle, Lindy, let's hear about Google Classroom.
Thanks, Shonda. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started right away. So I'm going to go on to a screen share. Somebody, Shonda or Lindy, can you let me know if you can successfully see my screen? Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So welcome to this information for parents, Google Classroom overview. We're going to be looking at the features of Google Classroom this evening. And like Shonda said, there's an email address right there that you can send your questions to over the next 20 minutes or so as we go over the features. So Google Classroom is a learning management system. And you might be asking yourself, what is that? It's a software application that educators use in elementary, secondary, and post-secondary schools to deliver classroom materials. And so it's a system that works for the students and the teachers. But many workplaces also use these kinds of platforms to relay information, show job postings, conduct training, and establish communication channels, both within their organization and outside of their organization. So KPDSB is a Google school for their education platform, and so we have adopted Google Classroom as our LMS platform for our students and teachers to use. When the students are enrolled in a classroom, they'll see a screen that looks very familiar, looks similar to this. So on that screen are the classrooms that they will have materials delivered to, be able to see announcements, access videos their teachers have posted, maybe complete a quiz. And in a minute, Lindy Henderson is going to show us her Google Classrooms and take us into one of an example one for us to all take a look at. I'm a little bit nervous, you guys, so I will try to not feel so nervous. This is my first Google Classroom live YouTube event. So they're organized like that. They can actually be moved around, and there's different things that students can do with that to kind of make it their own. But this is the portal into their Google Classrooms, the home page that they get to when they go to classroom.google.com. So Google Classroom has lots of features, and I'm going to pass it over to Lindy right now so that she can take you on a bit of a tour of the classroom as your student would see it, your child.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just share my screen, and what I'll do is show you what it looks like when I go onto Google Classroom. And I'll show you from a couple different perspectives. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, so when we go into Google Classroom, you will see something that looks like this. You could see it on the small slide earlier. So this is a view that I see of all of the classes that I'm associated with as a teacher. For your child, it might look like different subject areas, or they might just have one Google Classroom. That's completely possible. My students that I work with have at least 2 Google Classrooms. So I'm going to take you into one of them. This is our grade 8 course hub. So in this portal, you'll see the name of the course or the class. It might include the teacher's name. It might include a subject, depending on the age or grade level. And then it's got a title. Over on the left-hand side over here, this is kind of a key feature that is the thing that stands out probably the most for parents and students. It's the idea of any upcoming assignments and possible due dates. So you can see that these students have some things that are due today and some things that are due Friday. This first page is called the stream. And when I asked my own children what they thought of the stream, they said that's kind of the landing spot, like a bulletin board, what they see first when they go into Google Classroom. And my daughter in grade 8 said, well, that's where we get all of the announcements, where our teachers communicate the things that are happening day to day. On my page, I also include, as a teacher, a week at a glance. And I try to keep this pinned to the top because it's during distance learning, it's especially helpful for for students and families to have a glance. That might be the case in some classrooms that you are in. And on the stream page, as you scroll down, you'll see any announcements. They might include links, they might include notes, and then any comments that others have made. The comments that are made on the stream are made by teachers or students, and they are visible for all unless you change the settings so that you can make a private comment to the teacher. The other main part that we need to know is the classwork section. From a student's view, they have stream, classwork, and group. They won't see grades. That's a teacher feature. And on the classwork page, you might see that some of the assignments or tasks are sorted by topic. So in this case, you can see the past 3 weeks of Week at a Glance, some English assignments, some math assignments, and other subject areas. So those are the main features of Google Classroom when you first log in. It's pretty intuitive and user-friendly in terms of those 2 main titles. And there's a substantial difference, of course, between what we're looking at with the stream and the classwork. Teachers and students both see these tabs: stream, classwork, and people. So you should be able to see that when you log in with your child. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing there.
Lindy, when we were speaking earlier, we talked about from a parent perspective, when you arrive at Google Classroom, it's a bit like when the students arrive at Google Classroom, it's a bit like coming into the workplace. So they've arrived at their place of work. The stream is a little bit like the bulletin board or the memos that they see, or someone giving them some information as they arrive to work. And then classwork is like kind of when they get to their own work spot and they have their work to do, jobs that are specific to them. Can you add anything else that a parent might think of as they kind of compare Google Classroom to their workplace?
I think those are good analogies. What we like to think of with the Google Classroom is it's a learning portal. So whether teachers and students are using it in a face-to-face setting or in this distance learning setting, as you mentioned at the beginning, it's a learning management system. So it's a landing spot and where we collect and curate the student work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I'm going to get back onto my screen. So I'll just mention to parents that if you have any questions, again, please submit them to distancelearning@kpdsb.ca. We are checking that email throughout this session. So, whoops. There we go. And let me know if my screen isn't showing, but you should now see a slide that indicates the role of parents and caregivers with Google Classroom. So The students and the teacher have direct access to Google Classroom, but parents can take an active role in monitoring learning by subscribing to the classroom email summaries. So you can actually choose if you want to get these daily or weekly, and they'll give information about what your child is doing in class. One of the frequently asked questions is, can I become a student in my child's Google Classroom? And you actually can't. You can only take on the role of a parent or a caregiver. So what does that look like? So Lindy, you actually mentioned this, that you're in the role of both teacher and parent. So as a parent that gets these classroom email summaries, can you give us a brief overview of what this looks like on the parent end?
Absolutely. So I had actually just tweeted this week, so it was kind of fortuitous that we were talking about this as part of the Google Classroom. I find it very helpful. So I've got 3 teenage daughters, and the 2 that are using Google Classroom the most as a learning management system, I've subscribed, I've given my email address to the school, and so I get an email summary every week. And there are 3 main parts to it. The first is any missing or past due assignments that will show up first. During distance learning, that looks a little bit different, and deadlines look a little bit different, but that's always the first component that we'll see. The next is any upcoming work that we can, much like you saw in the tab on the Google Classroom itself, things that we should say heads up, this is what's coming, and then any previous assignments. So what that does for me is it gives me a snapshot. I get one once a week for 2 of my daughters, and it just gives us a quick overview of where they are, and it serves as a communication between their teacher and I without having to make a phone call or an email, but it also gives us a talking point between my daughters and I to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that we're having some open communication about what the expectations are.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And if you're looking at this screen right now, you'll see an example on the left coming out of the envelope of what it looks like on your smartphone, and then on the right, what it would look like on your laptop. Google does have a parent help page. So if you just Google Google Classroom Parent Help, you'll be able to find that page. We can also send you the link if you request it through the email. So go ahead and check that out. Google Classroom will not automatically add you as a parent, so just touch base with your child's teacher to get yourself added, and then you will receive an invitation which you will have to accept. A couple of issues that we have seen with the Google Classroom emails is if we do have an incorrect email, your email is filtering it out into spam. If you had a recent email address change that we're unaware of, and then sometimes if you're accessing them on your phone, you might want to check that your settings aren't combining them in a way that's making it difficult for you to read them. So best results, use a desktop or laptop computer and double check with your teacher to cross-reference the email you have going at this present time with what they have on file. We definitely encourage you to email your child's teacher if you're experiencing any issues with the parent email communication from Google Classroom. And Jason, did you want to start this part of the session?
For sure, thanks, Michelle. When we're undertaking some new learning, some of our most powerful learning comes from questions. And so what as Shonda mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we invited families to share feedback on distance learning in KPDSB, and that included asking for some questions, getting feedback from parents. And so we looked at what are some of those key questions, as well as others that that have come across our desks. And so a few that we wanted to share and give some feedback on these questions are, well, first of all, my child belongs to multiple Google Classrooms, and that might happen with, say, in secondary with maybe in a math class, a science class, or in elementary perhaps with a French and a French teacher might have something set up a little bit differently from the regular classroom teacher. So my child belongs to multiple classrooms. Can I get all the assignments to show on one?
So unfortunately, you can't get them to all show on one. And I think that would be a really good option, especially for our younger learners. But right now, our students have to access the Google Classrooms individually. Actually, I'll just add to that though, that if they have classrooms from previous years or last semester, they can archive those so that they aren't on the home page. That might make it a little bit easier for them to just access the ones they're currently enrolled in.
And they do only have to log in once to have access to all of those classrooms, not have to log in separately and go to a different location to get to each classroom. Mm-hmm. So while they're not able to get it all in a single stream of information or in a single work page, they are able to access them all very easily from that homepage. Now, Michelle, I think you've already touched on this one. As parent, can I be added as a student?
I did answer that, but I wanted to say, Jason, quickly that as a parent, they will get an email summary of all of the student work if they are in several Google Classrooms. So it won't come as, say my child is in 4 classes this semester. I won't get 4 separate emails from Google Classroom.
Thank you for that. What other apps are used with Google Classroom?
So it's quite likely, because our board is using G Suite, that most of our students will use Google Drive, and within Google Drive, Google Docs, spreadsheets, Google Slides. They might also use a few of our other add-ons or extensions like Read and Write, Screencastify. Lindy, are any more coming to mind to you that you've seen our students using quite regularly?
I feel like, as you say, it's kind of evolving right now as we're in the distance learning section, but we're certainly looking at ways to make that easier. And some of the things that we're seeing or that my students and I are using right now are mostly around feedback, so that they're able to have a variety of options, whether they want to receive or give feedback verbally, through typing, through video. So on my Google Classroom, you'd notice a little purple squiggle that is for moat. So students are enjoying giving some verbal feedback that way. So it's kind of evolving, but I think anything in our Google Suite is the primary tools that we'd be using and connecting with Google Classroom.
You're right, and I forgot to mention Google Meet, which is the one we're using tonight, which is feeding into our YouTube channel, and a lot of our teachers and students are accessing Google Meet. Some teachers are using Google Forms to conduct surveys. Some students are making surveys with Google Forms, and we have WeVideo and Cami. There is really a suite of tools that are being used, and we have a pretty diverse approach during distance learning to make sure that we are meeting all of our instruction and learning needs.
And including also one of the great features of our Google Suite is the collaborative tools that are built in. So whether that's collaborating on a document, using a shared whiteboard with the jamboard.google.com, or as we are using here on the screen, sharing the slideshow that you see was actually built collaboratively with the folks that are presenting here this evening. So we're able to do that and give immediate feedback and update as we go. And so the students can as well as they're learning. So Google Classroom, I'm new to using Google Classroom. I might have limited bandwidth. Does Google Classroom use a lot of data?
So I actually asked our IT department about this today to make sure that I had the right answer. And I learned that it uses less data than a social media application like Facebook. It's fairly similar to just surfing the web. So we don't have to worry about it using a lot of data. Now, some of the things that we house on Google Classroom, like YouTube, possibly an application like Edpuzzle. That'll use a little bit more, I think, because it's a video, but in terms of delivery of the material, it'll be very similar to any other activity when you're just on the web.
Thanks, Michelle. Is there an app for Google Classroom? And as a parent, should I download it?
So I don't think that a parent needs to download it, but it is very useful for students if they use a smart device like an iPhone or an Android phone. They can see their work on it. They can submit pictures as assignments. And actually, I'm just thinking if a parent is assisting their younger child, this will be a way for them to submit a picture of their child's work. So I have it on my phone. I know most of our educators do, so I would definitely recommend it. I think that it makes the return of assignments and viewing of work a little bit easier if you do have it on your iPad or iPhone or mobile device.
I would just add to that. I think that it's completely possible. So if a student, as the students get older, sometimes they prefer to do some things on their phone, or maybe they aren't able to use their Chromebook. So the app is actually a good alternative to a device. And again, as students get older, they seem to supplement their use of Classroom with their phones, I think, a little bit more. And it's pretty seamless.
And yeah, I agree. I use it on my phone. Does Google Classroom offer assistive technology?
Yes, it does. And we actually mentioned that earlier when we were talking about one of the Google extensions, Read and Write, and as well when Lindy mentioned the extension Mote. So one of our most robust tools is Read and Write, which is licensed for all of our users. And that offers features like text-to-speech, reading out the text audibly to the child, the opportunity to record a response, a dictionary, and it's a really great assistive piece. It's a really great piece of assistive technology for our students, and so we recommend it. We've provided training on it. Any of Google's tools are very conscientious of the user on the other end of it. So if there is a need, the classroom teacher will be more than willing to work with the special education department and the student and the family to make sure that learning is accessible for our students.
Now, here's where I could pretend that I planned it this way to give an example of what of our learning, but no, I missed a question. And however, one of the tools that we are using this evening with our team is another one of the Google tools, which is Google Chat. And so while we're doing our presentation, we're able to give each other some feedback, including a reminder that you missed one question, Jason. And so that question was, can other students see my child's work?
So at the beginning of the session, when Lindy took you through the Google Classroom features, she showed you the stream. On the stream, yes, we can see comments that students might reply to a question the teacher has posed, or a little questionnaire. But when it comes to student work, no, all of that is completely private. It's just a channel between the student and their teacher. That being said, if it is a collaborative assignment and the students are working together, then yes, they will see each other's work. But of course, with assessment and evaluation, that will always be private and not go through any of the areas of Google Classroom where other students can see it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Great job getting back to that question, Jason.
Thank you for the reminder.
I think that is all of our frequently asked questions, unless something came through on the email in the last little bit. But again, a reminder to our parents that if you do have a question, for sure email us or reach out to your classroom teacher. And I think Shonda, does that bring us to you?
Yes, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Lindy, for sharing your knowledge of Google Classroom. Thank you to Jason for monitoring the questions that were sent to us. And thank you to Grant Shelsky for your support with the presentation, questions, and the chat. Our students are fortunate to be able to use this tool to help organize their work, boost collaboration, and foster better communication. To our parents and guardians, if you have any questions about Google Classroom, we encourage you to contact your child's teacher. I would like to remind you that there will be a session on Zoom, a video communication tool that some of our classes are using during distance learning, and that will be next Wednesday, May 13th at 6:30 p.m. You will be able to find it on this same YouTube channel. Take care.